Alright, so we are here with Corriva, and this is the kind of endpoint, I think. I don't know, there might still be some more work to be done, might be an update to this, but feeling pretty good where it is for the abilities, or for the functions I did get into the system. So over here, we've got all the carts. So right now there is 5 carts, which include the tool cart, which has the welder and the drill, the engine cart, the control cart, the expansion cart, which is weldable. You just have to do some trickery. There's some screens around to how to make it work with printing. I mean, not welding. Well, you gotta weld it too, but... And then there's an empty cart, which is just a nice starting point for any custom carts you might want to do. There's a lot of screens around here that explain everything. I'm not going to go over them all right now. Over here there's just a full train, just for purposes. And then you can see here we've got about 4 test tracks and then a test elevator. And most of this stuff is stuff you've seen on the YouTube channel already, but it's over here. We've got the Corriva set up to weld, and we can do that just by unmerging, and then we can just increase our throttle, get us into the tube, and we'll turn on the slow and weld protocol. We can increase our speed a little bit. We're just not quite to the unwelded portion here. Let's go in here. F8. Should be pulling up to it now. So there is ways to technically make this weld a bit faster. If you cut down on the storage space, it's potential to install a second welder or even another welder farther back on the train. And all you have to worry about is just getting, with the first welder, it only necessarily needs to weld the corridors up to the point that the train can sit in it, which is the first build state. So you can technically have a second or even a third welder in the line that then goes from that first build state to the final build state, which could improve the general speed moving forward, because as you can see right now, it's going pretty slow. And that's just because you've got 2 blocks you've got to fully weld up before you advance. You don't want to do it in 2 passes, so this is the best way to go about it. But yeah, that's the welding function. You can see that it works as you'd expect. You can get out. Let's just let that do its thing. I don't care. And then the next one here is just a simple control cart. This just showcases, like, if you wanted to use the cart as a way to move around once the train is all built. So there is one thing with this one. You'll see here I've got the suspension set to -23, which is the normal suspension height that you want to be running at. But with this cart, because the wheels are so imbalanced like this, you can see how I kind of jackknife when I'm trying to get into the tunnel here. So when you do that with the single cart specifically, if you're running more than one cart, this isn't an issue. But if you just increase your suspension or decrease or whatever it is to -17, you can slide yourself in real nice and easy, and then go back up to 23. And as you can see, you can zoom down this, and you can even adjust your speed limit and get a little more extra speed out of this. I don't know if I'll get to full speed with whatever left I have on the track, but... And as you can tell, the runout sensor does not work with a single cart. you can see here, like this one should stop. But the single cart, the run out sensor, yeah, it blows right past it. But you can see, this cart stopped no problem. Unfortunately, I don't really know of a good way to make the run out sensor on the single cart work. There's just not enough braking time, and there's so few wheels that you just, at max speed, you're out of luck. If you're only going 10 meters per second, the run out sensor will probably work. And then over here, this is kind of, actually, first we'll do the elevator. So this is a really kind of, this is probably like the least polished version, is the elevator, because I just never got around to it. But, where are we going? You can see here we've got kind of a very, very basic version of the elevator. Probably try not to eject it out of the tunnel and blow something up that I need to demonstrate, I guess. But yeah, that's kind of a very basic version of the elevator that works. Wow, the lighting at the spot I've built in, it's just not great. I always struggle with the lighting in this game. But anyways, small large block, we'll unmerge this and jump back into our control here. So here we've got the expansion cart demo, and we've just got a pretty simple setup going on here, and that is allow us to do this, I think. Where are we? Alright, we seem to be linked up here, so now we can just run on toolbar 2, number 1, which is the expansion cart connect routine, and that's going to do the routine for splitting this up. And I think I forgot to, actually I'm confident I did. Hello, let me out. I forgot to turn this action block relay on, so this didn't disconnect. But that'll work. Oh. And then I hit the wrong button. Okay, this should work now. In the actual blueprint, this will work a little bit better. There we go. We are now hooked up to the expansion cart. Oh. And as you can see, we can just move this straight forward. And you can see that you can move this around, and you can go at a pretty decent click even with the weight. It's the same max speed as it would be without it. And of course, when you're in the control seat, oops, when you're in the control seat, you can just drive it like a normal rover with W and S. And you can see there's just a little quick demo unit. You can weld up some blocks here, just showing that you can build off of this. In this case, I'm just showing a little bit of a welding unit, or a welding wall that's mobile, but you know, you might have it set up so you put your rover dock to the train, or maybe you just use the Corriva as the monorail, the technical monorail, and what's connected to it is actually the cabin or cockpit that you ride in. Right? It can be a whole structure around the corridor, but connected to the vehicle in the interior of the corridor. And then finally, the last demo over here just showcases the tunneling ability. And actually we can drive this one with this. And we'll try and get a little farther down the tunnel here. A little too far down the tunnel, possibly. So you can see here, we are clearing all the stone away. And making ourselves a new tunnel. And you can see it cleared just a little bit more. This is one thing you have to worry about. This might actually cause an issue. So what we're going to do is actually run backwards here. The reason why this might cause an issue is because I didn't slow down the train fast enough. I just kind of jumped over some of the voxels. And if you have voxels inside this corridor, sometimes that can cause issues where you jam up the train. So I apparently did not move far enough back. Alright, so the the moral of the story is that when you come down this tunnel, don't come screaming down at full speed. Click the slow protocol before you hit the voxels. But anyways, that's welding and drilling doing its thing. You can see how it works. Might be a little broken, but that's just because this demonstration is scuffed. And I don't feel like recording it again. But yeah, that's the main use case. Obviously, when you implement things like this in realistic situations... Oh, I think I just teleported the whole frickin' train. I did. When you implement these things in your actual world, you're going to be operating on doing what you need to do instead of just trying to make a couple examples that showcase it to people who probably don't have the attention span or care. Yeah, I don't know what that was supposed to mean. That is to say, these are very rough examples because they are just that, examples. There's just certain things that when you're actually deploying these into your world, you'll have to take care of, like, you know, for things like the elevator. You're going to have to figure out how you get this thing deployed in a vertical orientation. It's easy enough to drive it into a tunnel when you're working with gravity. But when you're working against gravity and going vertically, that's a little bit more difficult. You'll have to use a crane or, you know, set up a vertical welding array and build it vertically, stuff like that. There's a lot that could yet be designed and engineered to make this as effective of a platform as I think it could be. I think a lot of the use case is going to be this expansion cart, honestly. Because being able to build your own corridor and then being able to expand upon that to do whatever you need to do is pretty nice. And it means instead of building like a bespoke monorail structure for every time you want to make a weird looking monorail or whatever, you can have a big kind of like ski lift-esque cabin or whatever attached to the small monorail, where you can have room for maybe a couple players, a small rover or whatever. And of course you can put this on different walls of the corridor if you want. You don't have to have it hanging off of one side. You could have it hanging off the bottom. Generally speaking, it is actually better to have it hanging off the side, I think, because as you do add more weight, you twist the Corriva in the tunnel. This isn't much weight, so it's not twisting too much right now. But if you had a really heavy weight, it would twist, and if you were hanging off the bottom, all that weight would be hanging off your vertical suspension. But when it's hanging off the side, it's twisting, so every suspension is engaged. So you actually have more resistance against the side load than you do the vertical load. But this is getting very, very rambly at this point. This is kind of where I've called it. Like I say, there's a lot more that could be done. Like, I envisioned like using some subgrids and whatnot to actually make turning stations, so you could, you know, change the angle of the monorail and stuff like that, or even adding articulation into the cart itself via subgrids. Like, I think in theory it's potential to have curved tunnels by adding hinge change in place of merge blocks, which would allow each cart to kind of operate independently. You might have to shorten the tool cart by removing some of the storage on it, just to get a more standardized size for the cart. But there's definitely a lot more upgrades that could be made for different use cases and whatnot. But hope you like it. It's out on the workshop now. Go download it, try it out, put it in your world. I wanna see some cool things being made with this. I think there's definitely some use cases that this can solve. Alright,